It's the end of summer. Summer is drawing to a close. Who would have ever thought these restrictions, these COVID restrictions and measures that we all adopted back in March would still be with us here in September? I don't believe anyone did. And we have to understand why those restrictions are here. Many people have asked me, what can they do? What can we do to influence and alter these, I would call, outrageous restrictions on our freedoms, on justice, these restrictions on our economy, on our access to healthcare? People are asking, what can I do? What can we do? Well, there's some simple things that we can do that are effective and that will make a difference. But first, I think we have to realize and understand there is a great number of people that are fearful of COVID. They're fearful in large part because of the actions taken by our governments and the actions taken by our media in reporting on COVID. Those two functions, those two institutions, government and media, either unwittingly or accidentally, have created a great deal of fear, and I would say irrational fear, in so many people. The evidence is overwhelming. I'm not going to talk about the evidence today. I'm going to talk about what we can do together to have influence and change these outrageous restrictions. The first is The first is simple. We just boycott the media who are instilling this fear. Boycott the media who are not giving a balanced report and a balanced view of COVID. And we see this all the time. Just this past week, we saw the media in Ontario, Canada, report on and give life and breathe air into protests about the BLM movement in Toronto, about the defund the police protests in Ottawa, about tearing down the statues of Sir John A. Macdonald. But they didn't report at all on the thousands of people who were at Parliament Hill demanding an end to mandatory masks and a return of freedom and democracy. They were absent. They were silent. To me, it is unacceptable that our media would be so complicit in giving a biased view of COVID and actually being dismissive of any other view of COVID other than the accepted narrative. Here's what you can do. If you follow one of these mainstream medias that are biased about COVID, like CTV and CBC or CNN and MSNBC, or wherever you are around the world, if you follow those pages on Facebook, unfollow, because it's very simple. Media, the revenues that media get that keep them afloat are in large part derived from their online audience, the interactions, the clicks, the shares. That's what drives their advertising revenues. So unfollow those pages. And maybe when you do, add a comment to their page and say, I'm unfollowing this media outlet because they're providing a biased view on COVID. They're not giving airtime for the other side. And if you do that, take a screenshot of your comment and put it out on Twitter, or put it out on Instagram, or Parler, or any of the other social media platforms, and tell your friends and neighbors that you want fair reporting on COVID, not biased reporting. You can do more. When you see these stories in the mainstream media that propagate and promote fear, as Alex Berenson calls it, panic porn, and I think that's an appropriate and adequate term, don't share them, don't like them, don't interact with them, because every time you do, that media outlet is deriving advertising revenue from your interaction. Let's send the media a strong message. Let's boycott the bias. Let's boycott those media outlets that are propagating fear and an unreasonable approach, the restrictive measures of COVID. Let's boycott them completely and maybe take it one step further. Look at those other media outlets that are giving a fair and balanced reporting of COVID. Just this past weekend, Canadian doctor from Ontario here, Kulvinder Kaur, who's been a strong proponent of giving a broader and better understanding of immunity and HCQ, who has been shunned completely by the Canadian media, did an interview on the Australian Sky News Network. It was a wonderful interview. Dr. Kaur is a very articulate and thoughtful and knowledgeable individual. Let's follow, let's watch those media outlets that are giving a balanced view, letting both sides or all sides have express themselves, like Australian Sky News, like the Post Millennial, like the Rebel News. These are all media outlets that are allowing and promoting a balanced view. There's also many others online who are also promoting a more thoughtful understanding of the risk and the danger of COVID. People like Ivor Cummings in Ireland, people like Alex Berenson in the United States. There's a great number of people who are promoting and providing facts and evidence that people ought to at least consider. I think they're bang on, those people. And we should promote those people who are giving a balanced view. Finally, cancel your online subscription to those media outlets that are not giving a balanced view of COVID. Just cancel it. And when you do, send them a note. And again, screenshot it and put it out on social media that you've canceled your subscription to the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star or whoever it may be. And together, we will show the media that there is another side to COVID, that public opinion is not just fearfulness, that public opinion in the Western world still demands democracy, justice, freedom, and we also demand balanced reporting on it. If you like my videos and like the message that I'm conveying to people, make sure to press the like button on Facebook, retweet on Twitter, share on Facebook, and also tag some of your friends and family members in these videos. Together, we can stop this craziness and this irrational policies of COVID but we have to work together and spread the message.